Hello and welcome to episode 76 of Daryl Show Your Work. So in this episode, I'll be showing ways in which we can exploit something known as WebDAV. I'll be using a combination of two different tools. In this episode, I'll be using something called DavTest and Cadaver. And this is going to be actually a two-part series because I'll also, in my next video, I also want to show how we can exploit this using MS Venom and Cadaver, and just showing multiple ways in which we can do that. And I'll give a more high level definition or go deeper into what exactly DAV test is and Cadaver once we get to that part of the video. But to give a high level, well, first to give a disclaimer, anytime I do any offensive security or any sort of hacking or a red teaming activity. I just want to say that this is for research and ethical purposes only. Any sort of malicious actions that directly or indirectly come from someone watching my video, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. All right, so to give a high level explanation of what WebDAV is, it's basically a set of extensions to the HTTP protocol that allows users to remotely create, edit, and manage files on a web server. So we're going to be exploiting the remote nature of WebDAV in order to try to make a remote connection through the WebDAV utility in order to try to get to the back end server, web server. All right. So in this video, I'm going to focus more on the exploitation itself more than the recon. So in this instance, I've already performed the recon and know what our target's IP address is, which we can see right here. It's going to be 10.3.23.25. All right. So the first thing that I want to try to do here is I want to use something within the nmap scripting engine to be able to see if indeed the WebDAV directory exists within our target web server. So there needs to actually be a WebDAV directory in order for this exploitation to work. So in order to do that, I'm going to say nmap, and I'm going to perform a service scan just so I can see the version and everything of the of whatever type of HTTP service being ran. And of course, we're aiming at port 80. All right, then I'm gonna do dash dash script since we're using the scripting engine within nmap, and I'm gonna do enumeration. All right, and then we're gonna aim this at. Sorry about that. All right, paste that there. All right, let me see. Let me get rid of this because I don't know why that did that. All right. All right. So again, what this is going to do, this is going to basically tell me if that WebDAV directory is indeed present on this web server. All right. Okay. Hold on. It's not recognizing that script where it should. Let's see. I see what I did. Missed a few parts here. No worries. So we actually have to tell it to enumerate HTTP. All right. All right. So let's run that again. Giving it a few seconds here to do its thing. All right. So it gave us a lot of interesting information. So we now know course port 80 is open, which is the HTTP port, but we also see that it's running Microsoft ISS HTTPD, which is again is a Windows Server exclusive protocol. All right, and now if we go down here, okay, we can see that WebDAV is present, and it says potentially interesting folder, and it gave us a 401 unauthorized return code, which often means that authentication is needed. All right, so something else that I already have prior to going to this lab, again, wanted to get a lot of that recon out the way. I actually do have the credentials to get into the WebDAV. However, I did still want to show a way in which we could gather that information if we were trying to find those credentials. So I'm going to use a utility that I've covered before in previous videos, known as Hydra, and it's a brute force standalone utility. It's not part of the metasploit framework, but it still conducts a brute force attacks and uses those word lists that we would use when doing a brute force attack in any similar attack. All right. So to get started with that, I'm gonna say Hydra, and I'm gonna do dash capital L. All right, for list, and then I'm gonna say user share word list, and this is where the actual word list that I'll be using is located. Exploit, and then the word list that we're going to use to try to find the username is common user.txt. All right, and then I'm gonna say dash capital P as far as the user excuse me, the word list that we're going to use to find a password. Yeah, for some reason, when using this virtual machine, some um, some terms that I put in, it tries to autocomplete after I've put in what I wanted to put in. So that's why sometimes you see those errors as I'm writing FYI. All right, then a password list that we're going to use is common underscore passwords.txt. And then I have to then tell Hydra where we want to aim this at. So this is our target IP. All right. And then I wanted to do a get method, http get, meaning I wanted to download those um, credentials to my local directories, so I could then be able to display it and see exactly what those are. And then we want to aim it at the web DAV directory. All right, another autocomplete. All right, and I'm going to run this. Let me see, it didn't like something. What did you like that I wrote there? Let me see. See, user, share, word list. Oh, forgot the S off for users. I see. All right. There we go. All right, so nothing should return. Again, no zero, no valid password found, because this was just an example of a way that we can find those credentials. I already have them. So, but this would be one way in which we could try to brute force the WebDAV directory to use against those common passwords or common usernames, and try to get those credentials. But I have them. All right. So, all right, moving forward, now it's time to use the DavTest utility, and so I'm gonna use this to basically see if with DavTest to basically see if I can make a connection to the WebDAV directory. All right, so to see if indeed this does require some type of authentication, or if I could just simply walk through the front door. All right, and so to give a high level overview again of what DevTest test is. It's basically a WebDAV scanner that sends exploit files to the WebDAV server and automatically creates a directory and uploads different format types of files. All right, so the tool is also it's going to try to execute upload the uploaded files, and it's going to give me an output of the successfully executed files, and we're going to see that here as I move forward. So the first thing that I'm going to use DavTest to do to see if it detects as well the presence of that WebDAV directory, and to see if I can make a connection to it without authenticating. All right, so I want to say I'm going to give the URL and say http colon slash slash, and then give it the IP address of our target, and then of course the WebDAV directory. All right. All right. So it did confirm that it's open, and it said it failed unauthorized. All right. So that further confirms that indeed I do need to authenticate to access the WebDAV directory. So now I'm going to actually give it the credentials that I have, and let's see if I can get into WebDAV. So I'm gonna say WebDAV, and you know what? And I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna just modify my previous command here. And this time I'm just gonna say -auth. All right, and then I'm gonna give it the username that I have is Bob. Delete that. And then the password that I have is password underscore 321. No, actually 123321. All right. And so as you can see, it's a pretty weak username and pretty weak password. And this is exactly why um, in most cases, if I were to try dig a little deeper, maybe use other utilities to try to find that these credentials, I could easily find something that simple. All right, so I'm going to see if this will unlock WebDAV for me, and we're going to see what happens if it does. All right, so a few things happen that fast. I'm gonna let it finish doing this thing, and then I'm gonna walk us through what happened. All right, so going up. All right, so we can see starting right here that where that dev test actually created was actually able to successfully authenticate into the WebDAV directory, and then we seen that it created a new directory. All right, this dav test dir underscore cj blah 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 blah. All right, and then we look. There's a bunch of put methods, meaning that it sent all these different file types. All right, these different test files to the dav directory, telling me that once authentication is made, then these are the type of file types that can be sent over to the WebDAV directory. We have HTML, we have looks like Perl, PHP, ASP, secure HTML, so on and so on. Here we have different file types. All right, which is very important. If I want to know, if I want to send something malicious, I know what type of file types are are allowed to be uploaded to that on that end. Now DevTest has tried to execute certain files on that and within WebDAV. And we can see that WebDAV allows it successful execution of HTML files, ASP files, and TXT text files. Okay, so now that tells me that if I wanted to send something malicious, it needs to be in the form of one of these three file types, because every other file type that was successfully uploaded there, only these three were able to successfully execute there. All right, so now with this knowledge, I'm going to use a utility known as Cadaver. And what Cadaver is a tool specifically for WebDAV clients. And it supports a command line. It supports a command line style interface, and it's going to support operations such as uploading files, editing, and moving files. So this is what's going to enable me to then remotely send my malicious payload over to this WebDAV directory. All right, and to see if I can establish a reverse shell session into the backend web server. All right, so to get started, I'm gonna come back down here to my command line. All right, and I'm gonna type in Cadaver. All right, and again, I'm going to give it the um, the address of where I want things sent. All right, and first we need to be able to see if Cadaver can um, can um, can actually access this. All right, so that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to paste the target IP address. All right, and then I'm going to tell it to aim for the WebDAV directory. All right, just checking my syntax here, and let's see. All right, so let's see if I can authenticate. So I'm gonna give it the username, which is Bob, and then I'm gonna give it a password, which is password underscore 123 321, and bam, I'm in. All right, so I'm actually right now through Cadaver, I'm actually in the WebDAV directory, and I'm going to show this on the GUI interface as well, just confirming that everything that I do works on the GUI interface as well. But I want to show how we could do this from the command line. All right, so now I'm gonna open up a different window here because I want to stay within Cadaver in this window, but I want to show what I'm going to be sending over to our friends over on the Microsoft uh, ISS server. All right. All right, and I want to show exactly. See, I have this located at see, I think it's user share web shells. All right, and we actually do have a web shell in ASP format. All right. All right, so we can see that this last entry here, this is what I'm going to send over to them. All right, so I'm going to send over this webshell.asp file. All right, and this is what's within it. It's gonna perform a reverse shell, and I'm gonna that's what's gonna enable me to be able to have access to the backend web server, and when it uploads, it should create a new directory, which then it's going to create an interface for me to actually enter in commands, text-based commands to run on that Microsoft server. All right, so let's see if that works. So I'm going to switch back over to my Cadaver session. All right, so now I'm going to do a put method, since I want to upload this web shell file, ASP file. So I'm going to say give it the location. Let's delete that. It's in the share folder, web shells. All right, and then it was ASP. All right, and then I want to actually specify the file that I'm sending over, which is webshell.asp. All right. So what this is going to do again is going to upload this. Since we know that uploads to this server works after using DavTest, and that it allows the execution of ASP files, that works perfectly or for me. All right. So I'm going to send this over, and it looks like that was successfully sent. All right. So now I want to be able to test this, be able to test this out. So I'm going to open up my web browser and we're going to visit the GUI. All right. So I'm going to say http colon slash slash, and then we're going to give it the IP address of our target, and then we're going to say WebDAV. All right. So this is where it's asking us to authenticate. So I'm going to give it the password. Excuse me, the username. Bob, and then a password. Hold on, I think I messed that up. All right, I'm in. So we can see that this is that test directory that I made using DavTest. I'm gonna click on that, and these are all the test files that is sent. All right, so going back. All right, and then we can also see this webshell .asp file that I sent using Cadaver. So I'm going to click on that and let's see if that interface is indeed created. And there we go. All right. So it's already given us information about the type of protocol, HTTP protocol that's being used on the web server end. It's also giving us the server's local address. So now I'm gonna start typing in some Windows commands here. All right, just to see if it works. I'm gonna say who am I. All right, if we look down here, it gives us the device name. All right, and then let's say IP config. If I wanted to see the IP configuration information. All right, and so I didn't mention before, but I want to see if I could capture a flag. All right, so we're going to start looking inside the drives inside of this machine. So I'm gonna say dir for directory, and then we want to look in the C drive. So colon backslash. All right, let's run that. And bam, look down here. We have a flag. So in order for me to retrieve the contents of that flag, I'm going to do type. And this works the same way as um, cat within Linux. Type the type command. All right. So I'm gonna say specifically the flag.txt files. I want to see what the contents of that is. So let's run that. And here we are. So here is the flag. All right. So to give a high level overview of what I accomplished in this video. All right. So first, I ran used the nmap script engine to detect the presence of the WebDAV directory within our target host, which it successfully did. And even though I already had the credentials prior to the video, I also just showed a way in which we could retrieve those credentials by using a brute force utility such as Hydra to use those common users or common password word lists in order to gain those credentials. And then I ran the DavTest utility to scan our target host to further verify that WebDAV did exist but required authentication. And so then I fed DavTest those credentials, which was the username was Bob, the password was password 123321, which did allow me which allowed me to successfully to authenticate, and also allowed DevTest to do its thing in terms of creating a directory in that WebDAV directory, another subdirectory, which it then placed some test files there, different variations of it to see if it would allow the uploading of those files, and then it further tests to see which of those files would be successfully executed there, which you found out that HTML files, ASP files, and TXT files were the only ones out of the group that would allow those successful executions, which is fortunate for me because I had an ASP related a payload on my end to send to them to try to attempt to run a reverse shell. All right, so then once we found all that out from TestDav, I then used the Cadaver utility to then actually send that web shell ASP file payload to the HTML server, which I then finally went to use a web browser to actually browse to the site, to the subdirectory, and then to launch the web shell, which then created that user interface for me to be able to put in those Windows commands to be able to further enumerate the system, and then also to find the flag within the system, which represents sensitive data that if I was a real intruder, that I would be able to access and potentially exfiltrate from their system or do whatever I want to do with that information. So this just further stresses the importance of why you need to have certain filtering technologies such as a web application firewall to prevent the running of certain commands, or why you need to have a strong password policy, even though you have a layer of authentication in place. If you allow weak usernames or passwords into that, it really doesn't matter because someone can easily brute force that and find their way in. And then also allowing the execution of certain file types, which can be used to perform uh, execute malicious payloads, such as that ASP payload. So if it's not necessarily if that ASP protocol is not necessarily needed to run there, then don't allow that to be executed, or at least on the front end by those entering your site. Again, if we filter that out using a web application firewall, then it will probably wouldn't happen. But anyway, please like, subscribe, and share. Most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.